Sunhi, a girl who has already finished film school, drops by her old campus. Aiming to see Professor Choi for some important matter, he runs into her ex-boyfriend, Sang-woo. The man is not only charming, but he's also a genius, along with being a terrible liar, of course. He tells Sunhi that Professor Choi is traveling abroad and asks her to hang out to get some coffee. Unfortunately for him, his clumsy and impromptu plan doesn't work. Sunhi almost runs away from him. Meanwhile, the man who is supposed to be traveling according to Sang-woo is taking a sunbath around campus like a cat. When Sunhi approaches him and tells him about Sang-woo's lie, he gets mildly confused. Anyway, this matter isn't discussed at great length. From the conversation that unfolds, it becomes gradually more obvious that the two have been close to one another. Perhaps this is the reason why the professor feels inclined to let her know what he really thinks about her decision to study abroad. As it turns out, Sunhi wants to keep learning the theory of making films in the US, and she wants Choi to write a recommendation letter for her. This will not be a problem, but Choi doesn't agree until he points out that, from his perspective, the girl should stay here and start learning and practice. She should make films and collaborate with people to use her time more productively. In any case, since it is already quite late to go back for Sunhi, he will write the reference, but he will remain true to himself throughout the entirety of it. He will just write what he knows. Sunhi meets Sang-woo on the way back as well, and she explodes in anger immediately. She roars in fury in front of him and demands an apology. This is truly the biggest emotional explosion in the history of emotional explosions. After Achilles' rage over Patroclus's passing, of course, Sang-woo has no other choice but to say sorry. Afterward, Sunhi orders some beer at the nearby cafe. Being kind of broke, she seems to like alcohol a lot. She's a true artist. Looking out of the window, she sees another important character in this story, Munsu, and asks him to come up. And so, already drunk, she meets the man who already seems to make movies. As they talk, we learn that there is a romantic history between them. Maybe it is the beer talking, but Sunhi takes on an aggressive mask. She pushes him not to change and not to be too excited about his success in this direction. Her attitude seems especially unusual when we learn that Munsu's film was a major failure. The communication between them cannot be called delightful. It's just Sunhi being upset at the man who is looking forward to the future. The man doesn't feel uncomfortable with her at all. Throughout almost the entire process, he remains calm and collected. Soon, however, more and more bottles of soju and beer are placed on their tables, and the two filmmakers immerse themselves in a rigorous afternoon of drinking. As alcohol kicks in, the man's mood changes color as well. Remembering what it felt like to be Sunhi's boyfriend, he jumps headfirst into the remembrance, saying that she will always be the main topic of his life and his films. It has been a very long time since they broke up, but going back further in time, Munsu encounters questions that are still unanswered. Thanks to the soju in the afternoon, he has no patience left, of course, so he wants those questions to be answered immediately. The question is very simple and quite surprising. He wants to know why Sunhi broke up with him in the past. At first, as if she were declining the most ordinary request, she just says that she will tell him later. But once the man keeps asking more and more questions, she decides to just run away. It is clear that Sunhi is astounded by her feelings, and it seems she is taking care of those problems in the unhealthiest manner possible. Munsu is disappointed in his afternoon. It's painful for him to endure the pressure of an unanswered question. Feeling helpless in the face of his feelings, he thinks he will never be able to get out of Sunhi's spell. After the cafe, he walks to his friend Jhak's apartment and calls for him from the outside. At this moment, the friend is just chilling in his small and cozy apartment. Everything about him, starting from his size and ending with the way he smokes his cigarette, indicates that the last thing he needs right now is a visitor. Hearing Munsu's voice, his day is completely ruined. At first, he tries to come up with excuses, but finally, he feels forced to go down and meet him. Before he does that, however, he will have to do nothing. It will take approximately an hour or two. Munsu should wait. He definitely deserves that. An hour or two drags across more than 3 hours, but Munsu keeps waiting. He is already quite drunk for the second time in one day when Jhak finally comes to him. As he says, he has a lot on his mind these days. He mustn't be feeling well, but Munsu has his own tragedy to convey. As it is pointed out in the conversation, Sunhi used to be unreachable, completely in hiding, and away from everybody until she came to Munsu. Very quickly, this conversation takes on a philosophical tone. After Jhak urges him to just go with whatever's at his table and to just follow along the trail that Sunhi paves for him, Munsu explodes in the most unusual rumination. Over and over again, he keeps emphasizing that he must dig deeper and deeper to understand what is going on in his life, to understand Sunhee's feelings, and to reach down toward his own limits. It all sounds a lot, of course, and Jhak is probably overwhelmed. The subject is somewhat changed as he advises his friend to quit digging down and try to understand himself. It will only lead him to know his limits, and that won't do him any good. It is just not worth it. Being opposed to almost everything, the drunk man becomes angry here. Perhaps this anger is the thing that makes him realize that his best friend has been avoiding him recently. Naturally, the question arises in his head, and he decides to address this issue immediately. The answer he receives, however, is strangely familiar to Sunhee. Jhak says that he will tell him later. Munsu is overcome by curiosity, and the waitress is just confused. It is obvious that nobody conveys their feelings to Munsu clearly. They are either confused themselves, or they just don't want the poor man to know. Everybody's cruel to Munsu, even the waitress. Standing up from their table, she puts on a song about lost love. The next morning, Sunhee receives the reference letters and reads them alone in a park. The letter is a total disaster. It is true that it underlines some of Sunhee's positive qualities, but no sensible film school will ever take somebody who brings such a recommendation letter. Professor Choi seems to have empathized with her reserved personality, her flaws in communication and collaboration, her rigidity and ambition, and the uncertainty that she even possesses some talent. Towards the end of the letter, the professor points out that, given a chance, she might show more of her hidden useful qualities. In short, the letter is extremely honest. It is obvious that Sunhee must do something about it. Somehow she must change the professor's mind. Calling him after reading the letter, she invites him to eat together at his favorite place. She wants to discuss the content of the recommendation and asks him one important question. Throughout the almost date, Sunhee tries to understand what's behind the overall mood of the letter, but the professor keeps repeating that he wrote whatever came to his mind. Perhaps he made some mistakes, but that's only because he wrote it in 30 minutes. It is not a big deal. His honesty is a little questionable here. He laughs a bit too much and tries to change subjects when his disobedient mistakes are pointed out. Thankfully, the truth will be unveiled very soon. As it turns out, Sunhee and Professor Choi have some knowledge of history together as well. Choi has always liked the girl, and he was extremely hurt when she disappeared and didn't even reach out for a very long time. It is now that he first reveals his sympathies to Sunhee. At this moment, his motives are clearly revealed. Sunhee's response is really strange. She tells him that she will be happy to spend the rest of her life with him, a little too much for a recommendation letter maybe. And so, accepting his love and giving out an artificial one of her own, she drinks some soju with him and asks for another reference as soon as possible. Walking in the streets that night, they wiggle around on their drunken feet and hold hands as if they were a teenage couple after a night of drinking together. The next morning, Professor Choi visits his friend as well. Hilariously enough, it turns out to be Jhak again. The poor man just won't be left alone. Surprisingly enough, Jhak acts differently this time. Not trying to postpone the meeting or make him go away, he prepares himself and meets the professor as soon as possible. Jhak's conversation with Choi is radically different from his conversation with Munsu. This time, he is the center of the conversation, and so we get to learn a bit more about him. As it turns out, he has left his beautiful wife to live alone, but he cannot fully explain why. Strangely enough, Choi envies him. Without trying to understand them, Jhak lives in accordance with his feelings. Jhak is extremely surprised to hear his friend talk like this. Since it doesn't fit into his character, something groundbreaking must have happened in his life. Once he asks about it, everything but Sunhee's name is revealed to him. His friend is completely immersed in a feeling of excitement and love. He cherishes that girl, and is thankful that she rekindled the fire inside his heart. Jhak is just thrilled to listen to Choi go on and on about the positive traits that Sunhee possesses. He truly must have forgotten everything about her negative sides that he listed earlier yesterday while writing a recommendation letter for her. Now that his love is accepted, the only thing he can see and want to share is the positive side of his love interest. Love is truly the best thing humans are capable of. Having no idea that the person Choi was speaking of is Sunhee, Jhak runs into her in a street later that day. Being a movie director himself, he seems to have known Sunhee for a long time as well. Walking up to her, Jhak falls and prays to the master manipulator as well. It is very soon after that, the two are going towards a bar to get some drinks. The waitresses of the bar named Arirang must love to drink together with their clients. She seems to love flirting with her female guests as well. When the conversation between Sunhi and Jhak begins, it is just fascinating to see how their personalities change. It must be true that one picks one's mask according to its environment. After discussing the subject of the poor Munsu and the degree to which he still loves Sunhi, they change the gears of the conversation quickly. At this moment, Sunhi points out that she doesn't want to date anybody anymore. Her plan is the following. She either studies or goes to the country and takes on farming. The man guffaws at this uncontrollably. Sunhi and farming, these are the two things that just cannot come together in his imagination. After the good laugh, however, he sees clearly that the girl is totally serious. This is when he decides to give her the perfect advice. She should quit coming up with excuses to postpone doing what's meaningful. She should stop talking about studying and farming and just start turning her scripts into movies. Even more, she should go ahead and dig deep into her personality to try and understand who she is. This is a highly meaningful purpose that anybody can set for themselves. Just remember the position he stated about the same subject while talking with Munsu. Funnily enough, he keeps pushing this idea, but the girl doesn't care about it at all. From her perspective, she just needs some luck. It truly does bring some extremely unusual feelings to listen to the rest of their conversations. As Jhak starts giving her comments, he points out the same exact positive traits that Professor Choi had earlier. It almost feels like the three men, mixed and swirled with one another, are currently speaking with the girl, who's also a mishmash of different masks and facades. Sunhi is delighted to hear the compliments. Very soon, it feels like the facades are broken. Slowly and quietly, Jhak says something original. He urges the girl to just not do something she will regret in the future and begins diving deep into her eyes. She does the same as well, and the feeling they get seems real as they hold hands. The duo find each other lovely. Without too much passion and making out, they simply remain in this position for a very long time. And so, the two fall into a semi-conscious state, as the song about the lost love starts filling the bar again. The only thing that can break the couple apart, however, is one extremely polite man with a chicken wings delivery. Walking together through the streets in the night afterward, they reach Jhak's apartment building and give each other a long, passionate, and drunken kiss. The man isn't so sure whether he should let her go alone, but soon he promises that she will be okay. She's not that drunk. Taking his umbrella, she points out that they still have a lot of time to spend together and stroll away to home alone. The next morning, Sunhi hangs out in the courtyard of a local palace and reads the second recommendation letter Professor Choi wrote for her. As expected, this reference letter is radically different from the initial one. Here the professor stresses that Sunhi is an author of countless interesting, unconventional pieces, that she's phenomenal at expressing her feelings without seeming too self-absorbed, and that she is poetic and talented, persistent and calm, but prefers communication. She is innocent and honest, with integrity and clear goals. Reading the words, Sunhi almost starts crying. Tears almost start falling from her face because they are interrupted by a certain call. Moonhee is calling to see if he can meet her this evening. The girl has no intention to do so, as it seems. She has already drunk far too much, and additionally, she just thinks that meeting him will be a drag. If only Munsu would share whatever he has to convey over the phone, that would be fantastic. But the man is persistent in his desires. He really wants to see her. As soon he postpones giving a clear answer to his request, Professor Choi gives Jhak a call. He has no idea, of course, that his best friend kissed the hell out of his love interest last night. It is his fault, though. She shouldn't have kept her name a secret. In any case, Choi wants to speak with his friend. As a matter of fact, he is also hanging out at the same exact place as Sunhee. And just like her, he wants to be alone here. After postponing a session of drinking with Jhak, he looks around the park in autumn and gives zero mind to the fact that his friend is feeling down. In fact, Jhak seems to be feeling so down that he wants to start drinking in the daylight as soon as possible. It is such a shame that Choi is with someone else at this moment. After looking around the delightful atmosphere, he finds Sunhee, who's still sitting on a bench, and joins her. Even though he told Jhak that he didn't want to drink any more drops of alcohol, he was quick to offer the girl a drink together. In the conversation that unfolds, the girl expresses her immeasurable gratitude for the letter and says just how much she wants to be the person described there. For Choi, every word about her is true, but what he really believes is already impossible to understand at this point. Very soon, she is again urged to dig down, study hard, and keep pushing herself to determine who she is. We have already lost count of how many times this has been said. The people saying this must truly believe in their words. What an honest and self-actualized bunch of individuals they are. After throwing coins in a fortune fountain, they stand facing an island in the middle of the pond. The colors of autumn are reflected in the water as the duo stares at the peaceful picture silently. The calm and delightful mood of the atmosphere is soon about to be overwritten by an unusual situation. Suddenly, after Sunhi goes away for a little while to use the restroom, Professor Choi finds himself in front of his friend, Jhak, who seems to have come here after feeling a bit suspicious. Farewell to the beautiful scenery. The expression on Choi's face changes abruptly as Jhak's gaze, full of questions, is shot in his direction. In contrast to the initial impression, Jhak stresses that he has come here only for sightseeing. Frankly, he is taken aback by how anxious Choi is becoming. If he truly had no suspicions beforehand, now he truly does. The situation is tense enough, but it is nothing compared to when another person joins their company. Funnily enough, it is none other than Munsu. Having no idea what to say to the others, he asks what they are doing here. To give him proper respect and recognition, he is the only one remaining fully honest in this situation. He admits that he's here to see Sunhi. She didn't agree to the meeting, but Munsu just hoped to run into her somewhere around this area. The two other men start acting clueless immediately. Of course, nobody has any idea where Sunhi is at this moment. They just wanted to see the autumn leaves fall into the pond on this delightful day. To put an end to this uncomfortable occasion, Professor Choi decides to run away from it as smoothly as he can. Saying that he wants to go to the bathroom, he indicates that he is going away and will be back shortly, but his friends are suddenly taken over by the urge to pee as well. And so, the three men go towards the toilets in unison. Fortunately enough, they do not run into Sunhi on their way there. It is exactly when they get into the men's room when the girl comes out from the opposite door. Returning to the pond, she reads Choi's message and learns that Jhak and Munsu are here as well. She leaves the place as soon as possible and ensures that no more uncomfortable encounters are made today. Upon exiting the park after her, the men were discussing her traits with each other. Speaking about her, they point out just how talented and smart she is, how developed her artistic sense is, but how insensitive, and, well, you know the rest. In any case, she is their Sunhi, and nothing will ever change that.